to Just Urbane. I'll wait for some followers to join in. Yvonne is the first person to join in. Hi Yvonne. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining in. I'm just waiting for a few people to join in. So what we're doing today is, again, it's the same urbane live that happens every single day. First things first, I sincerely regret that we could not do this Sunil Shetty conversation this afternoon because of some last minute changes in his schedule. However, we are going to reschedule that for some time in the next week. Based on the availability of Sunil as well as our timings. But today we have a very, very interesting personality whom I would be having a conversation with, and that's none other than this. The one and only eloquent speaker and eloquent member of parliament that we have, that's Dr. Shashi Tharoor. I will be waiting for him to join us. Meanwhile, I hope you all are taking care and staying safe, staying at home, which is the need of the hour at this point in time. And I'm just awaiting for Dr. Tharoor to join in. Just give me 1 second, friends. I've just got a important message from his office. Yes, we have him. We have Dr. Tharoor who is joined in. I'm just going to send him a request.
Hi.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Technology. How are you?
Very well, very well. How are you doing?
Well, it wasn't great because my Wi-Fi crashed on the dot of 7 o'clock, but it's come back to life. So here we are.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. So, been a very, very long time that we haven't spoken, we haven't met, and of course due to the lockdown and stuff. So, but great to see you again. It's always a delight to be talking to you, to be meeting you every single day.
I think some of your listeners won't know that I was actually supposed to do a live in-person event with you in Pune when I was taken ill by what, with hindsight, may well have been COVID. I have no idea. But in any case, I had to cancel my trip, and of course, by the time we could reschedule it, the lockdown came. Here is an initial substitute.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's wonderful to have you here as always. And sir, just before I go ahead, I would like to tell you what exactly we are doing. This is something that we are doing every single day on the Just Urbane page. Now that we are in a lockdown, we are in a quarantine situation, there's some ways that we need to entertain people, and it's excellent to have legends like you speak to us and give some inspiration to us and our followers. That's how that's why we have been doing all this every single day. So we're just going to have a very fun, interesting conversation with you. I have a few questions to ask you, and we'll be having a very nice chat. And we will also be taking some questions from our viewers who will be putting in a lot of questions on comments. All right. Before we go ahead, I would not that you need any introduction as such, but before we go ahead, I just want to tell you what I feel about you, or a little bit about you. So, friends, whoever have joined in, thank you very much for joining in. Dr. Tharoor, as you all know, is a member of parliament, probably the most eloquent member of parliament India has ever seen. A former minister of state, former undersecretary to the to the United Nations, and of course, and he is a well-wisher of Just Urbane magazine. We have been doing a lot of stuff together. He's been writing, contributing to Just Urbane magazine for over 2 years. He's also been on the cover of third cover of Just Urbane magazine, and also a recipient of the Urbane Man of the Year award last year. Welcome to Just Urbane Live Chats, Dr. Tharoor. Wonderful to have you here.
How are you doing? With you and I'm all right. Actually, the amazing thing for me is I think in the 11 years I've been in Indian politics, I've never spent more than 4 consecutive nights in the same bedroom. Simply because, for example, when Parliament is in session, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm here every Friday. I get on a plane and go to my constituency. I work all day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm back in Delhi. And when Parliament is not in session, I'm constantly traveling to different parts of the country and sometimes of the world, attending conferences, making speeches, and so on. So what has been unusual for me, and in some ways very good for me, is this enforced lack of movement. I've kept very, very busy, because during the lockdown and with all the stuff that's happening, I'm inundated with requests, challenges, problems, as well as video conferences, lectures, interviews, and all of that. But at least I'm not getting on a plane and circling around the country. And as a result, I can sleep at predictable hours and exercise regularly. And so I'm beginning to feel that in some ways this has been a bit of a recharge, a battery recharge moment for me. I don't say that lightly, because I know there are many, many nationals of our country who are suffering terribly at this time. People who don't even know where their next meal is coming from, and my heart goes to them. But since you asked how I am, the truth is I can't complain.
True. Correct. No, all hats off to the people who are also, including the doctors and the airline pilots also, who helped everyone get back to our respective countries, and hats off to all of them. Huge respect to each and every one of them. But talking about lockdown and talking about, we were talking about this current situation. Could you hear me, sir?
No, I lost you, Abhishek. You said how has, and then I lost you.
How has your day been? Because I understand politics is not you definitely don't have holidays. But how has your day been every single day during this lockdown?
Well, it's varied enormously. There have been a colossal number of things that one needed to do. First of all, as soon as everything began, I got very active in trying to use the resources at my command. At that point, we still had MP funds. And so I tried to use them to get urgent material and essential supplies to my constituency. First of all, there was a need for rapid testing kits, which I obviously needed to bring in. Secondly, there was a huge problem in terms of lack of PPE, personal protective equipment, for our healthcare workers. So I tried to do some of that. And all of this kept me very, very busy trying to deal with suppliers, organize the logistics, and try and ensure, in fact, that the rules governing all of this, governing the expenditure of MP funds, could be amended.
Yes.
To permit this expenditure. I actually had a chance of raising this with the PM in front of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha, followed up with a letter, chased up the officials, and we got it done. And as a result, 9,000 personal protection equipment kits, 3,000 rapid testing kits, RT-PCR testing kits, the ones that actually confirm definitively whether you have COVID or not, 250 infrared thermometers. All of these were delivered out of my funds. And then, as you know, and thermal scanners as well.
Correct.
And then, as you know, the government decided to abolish the MP funds for the next 2 years. So clearly, I couldn't proceed in those lines. But to give you examples of other things, dealing with the Medical Association Trivandrum about their needs and practical problems, dealing with dozens of cases of Trivandrum residents, my constituents, stranded in 17 different countries: Dubai, Nepal, Malaysia, Israel, Italy, Singapore, Philippines, Romania, fishermen and students stuck in Iran. I've had the most amazing emails from places in Ukraine and all sorts of people. I can't even tell you how widespread my constituents seem to be. And they've come to me by email, by phone, by social media. I've addressed every one of them, spoken to the foreign minister multiple times to intervene. And I must say, he's been amazingly responsive. I have always had a very good working relationship with him from his foreign service days. And of course, when he was foreign secretary, I happened to be chairing the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. So my respect for him is very high, but it's gone up with the amazingly constructive work he's done in terms of responding to the needs of constituents. And the civil aviation minister as well, once or twice. I needed to bother him. Then we've had serious issues during the country. For example, there were migrant workers in Kerala too, who started trying to head out for home, and I was asked to record a couple of messages in Hindi and Bangla, urging them to stay put, which I did, and those were broadcast in the migrant areas. Conversely, a bunch of Kerala truckers, not all from Thiruvananthapuram, were stuck in Maharashtra early in the lockdown because they had gone and delivered.
I saw that tweet, yes.
So they were coming back. Lockdown was declared, and again intervening through social media and telephone with the authorities there to get them released to go back to Kerala. Intervening on educational issues. Been minister in the Human Resource Development Ministry for 6 years now, but still students seem to write to me when it comes to educational matters, and I'm very happy to intervene. I'm very sensitive to their concerns. So as a result, I ended up having to intervene on all sorts of things: postponement of examinations in the University of Calicut, raising issues on the UPSC exams, JN thesis deadlines. Latest again, Kerala's chief minister's decision to have University of Kerala examinations. All of these things, students say, how can we prepare in the middle of a lockdown? We can't go out, we can't have access to libraries. And in some cases, students were on the crisis, including some interesting video conferences organized by Sam Petroda, including one with the health ministers of the Congress-ruled states, which gave me a very good insight into what people are doing well. Obviously, I've had to do a lot of monitoring of both national and international developments on COVID, study policy papers, express views on the way forward. I think I've been peppering the Prime Minister and ministers with various letters on everything from trying to stop applying GST and taxes on our essential supplies to fight COVID, to issues involving health insurance for healthcare workers, policemen and others on public duty, fighting the MP lads. Obviously, that's not a fight I could win. And even proposing to the government to defer its 20,000 crore Central Vista redevelopment plan till a later date in order to plow these funds into economic relief measures for the weakest and most vulnerable sections of our population. So all of these things, basically, I mean, I'm sorry to take so long since you asked, but each day has gone like this, plus, of course, interviews, lectures, video conferences, video seminars with a wide variety of audiences, lots of people asking for video messages on everything from Earth Day to World Book Day. Wishing people well.
We are also one among them.
And doing the best job I can in redirecting resources, helping those in distress, trying to move the needle on policy issues. And ultimately, that's where I'm focused during this time. But it's been very interesting, and I've still managed, because of the time I'm saving and going to and from airports, I've been able to do about 90 minutes of exercise every day. Today actually is the first day I took a break after 4 weeks of doing the exercise. So
there's always one cheat day or one rest day allowed for every single person.
So. At least after 4 weeks, I felt I was.
But I always keep asking myself, and I keep asking John and Raghav also when he was there, that how does Dr. Tharoor manage to travel so much, yet do so many things, and read so many books and write books? It's always been a question, and I think.
Well, I have to tell you that my mother, who is locked down with me, as is my London sister, who couldn't go back to England when the lockdown started. They're both complaining that I don't give them enough time. I devote the evenings to them. So after this interview, I will give up my computer. But otherwise, I've been writing all day, and indeed, I'm trying to produce a book as a result of this time.
Yeah.
So it's one more thing I've taken on. I think it's partially that for some reason, from very, very young age, I've been a bit of a workaholic. I take on, I attract work like a magnet, and I tend to deal with it. So let me just say that I am writing. I think in some ways, as I write, I learn, and it's helpful to sort of read more while you write and then expose yourself to other people's ideas that way as well. So even writing becomes an excuse to read. And that too keeps me going.
Absolutely. Sir, while we were talking about Kerala and COVID-19, Kerala has been is a state which has tackled the situation exceptionally well. And I mean, what is it that the Malayalis could do which other parts of the country are not able to do to a very large extent?
Well, it's a question that people keep asking these days, Abhishek, but the fact is that Kerala actually managed to build up a sense of what one might call social democracy much, much earlier. This is not the work of a couple of governments or a few years. It's really generations of devotion to public health, to public education, literacy, welfare. And in some of these things, it goes back to the monarchical days. The Maharani of Travancore, way back in 1819, became the first place in the entire world, ahead of any Western country, to declare universal free and compulsory education for both boys and girls, which it didn't exist. Even in the West, girls were not compulsorily educated for free. Similarly with health, I mean, the General Hospital in Trivandrum is about 150 years old. So you've got a long tradition of focus on that. And then in Kerala, both the ruling front, which currently is the left, the communists, and the opposition, which currently is the Congress-led UDF, and they've alternated in power every 5 years. One loses, the other wins. It's really gone on. For 55 years, there's been a change of government after every election. In those circumstances, you found that both parties have contributed to a consensus that what we today call human development or social development is the most important thing. And so we have, high emphasis on workers' rights. We have high emphasis on literacy, 94% literacy, the highest in the country, and some districts declaring 100%, but in some of our tribal areas, some people have lapsed back. So I would say 94 to 96% would be roughly where we've been in the last few years. Women's empowerment is highly advanced. As a result, by the next census, we will become the first state in India to actually lose population between the 2011 census and the 2021 census. So highly empowered women, high human development indicators, and because of emphasis on education, literacy, health, and welfare, high social development indicators. I did a section of my book, India from Midnight to the Millennium, way back in 1997, in which I compared the social development indicators of Kerala to those of the United States. And then I found that in everything, whether it was maternal mortality, infant mortality, life expectancy, number of doctors per head of population, number of nurses per head of population, number of newspapers per head of population, Kerala and the US were almost identical. In some areas, the US was very slightly ahead. In others, like newspapers per head of population, Kerala slightly ahead. But at the end of the day, Kerala, even then 1 generation ago, had the social development indicators of a developed country at literally 1/70th the per capita income of the United States. So this is not the work of 1 or 2 years. This is essentially a lifetime's, more than a lifetime, several lifetimes achievement, several generations that pull this up together.
Correct.
That's why you can't just imitate it, but one of the things we need to do nationally to imitate it is to put much more money into health and education. It's absurd that we only spend 1.28% of our GDP nationally on health. And that simply won't work. If India wants to become like Kerala, if the rest of India wants to be like Kerala, we'll have to dramatically increase the expenditure on health and education, and also the priority given to it.
True. How do you think the World Health Organization's how they have acted at the initial stages of when COVID-19 had started spreading. What's your take on WHO's
I don't think
measures?
the WHO covered itself with glory, Abhishek, because undoubtedly they gave the Chinese version a lot of credence, and they may have been legitimately accused of giving the Chinese a free pass. In other words, the line they were taking throughout most of January was essentially the official Chinese government line. And I must say, so was most of the rest of the world. We have quotes from President Trump, who's now attacking the Chinese. But in February, he was saying the Chinese are doing a very good job. One of the challenges for any UN agency is, and that's WHO is no exception, is that they are beholden to their most powerful member states. And so the result tends to be that if China comes to WHO and says this and this and this is what's happening, WHO tends to take their word for it. Now, I'm told that the WHO asked, look, do you mind if we send an independent delegation to verify this? And the Chinese didn't give them visas and balked at it for a while, and the WHO meekly knuckled under. That's unfortunate. But it's also true that we haven't created, the world as a whole hasn't created institutions which have the independent authority to tell governments, no, we insist on coming, and you don't have the right to cancel our visa. That's not happening. The UN and all the UN agencies are created by sovereign member states who are very jealous of their sovereignty and who are simply not prepared to surrender their sovereignty to an autonomous international organization. So one of the things that we need to learn from the COVID experience is the great importance of actually giving people, it seems to me, an opportunity to create truly autonomous, independent international authorities and let them actually then take the responsibility. Right now, they don't have the power. The budgets are what come from member states. They are beholden to powerful member states, and then when they fail, or they listen to the member states, you then turn to them and make them a scapegoat. I mean, the unfortunate thing was, if this had been another powerful member state like the US, for example, they would not have been able to conceal information the way the Chinese did. So that, you can argue, was another piece of bad luck. The Chinese did, as you know, just 2 days ago, they completely revised their figures, and they've doubled the actual death toll from what they were telling the world and telling WHO. But can you blame WHO for not taking the Chinese word? I mean, they had to take the Chinese word. I don't think they had a choice.
Correct. Moving on to a completely different area now. You have been a secretary at the United Nations, then politics. You have always been an eloquent speaker and author of 19 books.
20.
What role do you... 20 now, yes. So what role do you love the most?
Well, listen, I love everything I do, otherwise I wouldn't do it. Very frankly, I think there's really no excuse to waste your time doing things that...
Which role is very close to your heart?
That you dislike. But I will say that ultimately I think what's of most lasting value, I hope, is my writing. In the sense that I've often said, I'm already a former minister. One day I'll be a former MP, but I hope never to be a former writer. My books are the best of me. They will outlast anything I achieve, either in government or in parliament. And therefore, I hope that what actually I can do, I hope to do good in my work as an MP. I hope I will be effective if I'm ever given an opportunity in government again. But even if I'm not, the ideas, the thoughts, the values, the principles, and the insights that I hope I articulate through my writing should ultimately last much longer than anything I accomplish in a ministry or in parliament. I can tell you that one of the most gratifying things for me is when youngsters come up to me clutching copies of the great Indian novel, ask me to autograph it, tell me how much they love it. Youngsters who weren't born when the great Indian novel was first published in 1989. And then I realized that if I've been able to write something that has lasted that long, you can imagine how very satisfying that is as a human being for me. And similarly, when it comes to even some of the ideas, I mean, so many people tell me that I have, including some of the comments streaming in during our call, that I've contributed to an understanding of the damage done by British colonialism in the subcontinent through one book. And that book, whether or not you agree with it, whether others do more sophisticated research later and come up with new or different arguments, the book has made a mark. It's still continuing to sell and be read. And as far as I'm concerned, that is something that vindicates, much of my education, my thinking, and my writing in my life.
Absolutely. I was 2 years old when the Great Indian Novel came, and I do have a signed copy from you of the book. Talking of comments from your followers and friends, and also talking about politics, a lot of comments I saw. So you, even if you become a former MP, based on the comments, I see that everyone wants you to become the Prime Minister of India.
Oh, that's very, very sweet of them. But that's a very unrepresentative sample, because only the ones who are reasonably well disposed are bothered to come onto this chat. But I thank them for it. I have no illusions along those lines, simply because I know how politics works. So I just do my best in whatever function I have. And right now, the function I have is that an MP for Thiruvananthapuram, a columnist for Just Urbane and other places, as well as a writer of books. And each of those things I hope to do justice to. There's absolutely no excuse, I think, for doing something in a half-hearted way. I think whatever one is given an opportunity to do, one should do to the best of your ability. And that is really what I try and do in every single assignment or challenge
It's a wonderful message. It's a wonderful message. Dr. Tharoor, for every single person who is into the public life, be it politicians or celebrities or anyone into the public life, for example, there has always been a certain percentage of people whom we call trollers, who are always there to attain that 15 seconds of fame. What do you have to say about them? Because you get a lot of them, a lot of such messages.
Yeah, initially I used to feel very hurt. I was sensitive as any human being would be to some of the vile abuse. It was particularly painful when I lost my wife, and instead of mourning with me, people took that as an opportunity to really be vicious in a way that I think demonstrated the depths to which human beings are capable of sinking. But when you think about all that, my first reaction was, look, let's just ignore the media. And then I realized, no, you can't. This is an important forum, and there are people who are not trolls on it as well. And so then I learned to be indifferent to the trolls and to try and engage with the real people. And that formula in the end worked. It isn't easy, because you have to grow a thick skin, but that is often the secret in politics. I remember Natwar Singh telling me a wonderful story once about when he first became a politician. He was sworn in by Indira Gandhi, and he said to her very apologetically, because he was wearing a suit at the time, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I better get some bandgala stitched." And she said, "No, Natwar, you better grow a thicker skin, because a thick skin is the thing you really need in politics more than anything else you might wear."
Correct. Talking about tweets, something that you are loved for is the prowess in English language, and your use of some words in English which are extremely difficult to forget about pronouncing to even read. I have one example of such is this.
That was, by the way, deliberate. It was an act of mischief on my part. Because the truth is that I know it's not a common word. I know it's not a word that people are going to bother to know. But the point is that if I just announced my new book, it would not have got a fraction of the attention that it actually got because I used this word. So it was a marketing ploy to say my book is more than just an exercise in floxinocin nihilipilification. Because floxinocin nihilipilification is merely a way of saying estimating something or someone as worthless. So you don't need 400 pages, or in fact 500 is what the book is closer to, to say somebody is worthless. And I didn't want people thinking, oh, he's an opposition MP, he's just going to attack the Prime Minister, why bother to buy the book or read the book? So my answer was, read the book, because it's more than just an exercise in estimating someone as worthless. In other words, it's much more than just an exercise in floxin or synhelibilification. That was the idea.
Correct. So talking about, we spoke about novels. We spoke about your book, The Great Indian Novel. You have compared that. You've used Mahabharata as a story to write that book. What made you do that kind of a comparison and come up with that satire of?
The fact is that was indeed my source of inspiration. I was actually reading a very good translation of it. And it struck me, for 800 years, from roughly the 4th century BC to the 4th century AD, the Mahabharata was not just told and retold, it practically became the National Library of India. And then every interesting story, every philosophical lesson, every new insight or idea was inserted into a retelling of the Mahabharata. And it grew into a kind of compendium of every story that people in those days found worth telling and retelling. And then I asked myself, why did we stop retelling the story? And just as an idle question to myself, I said, what would a 20th century Ved Vyas writing today at that point was 1987, what would such a Ved Vyas actually write about as a great story of his times? And when that question came to my mind, inevitably the answer was, of course, one should write about the nationalist struggle, the emergence of independent India, the whole 20th century experience. And so I decided to make Ved Vyas, like in the Mahabharata, a character who both participates in the action and observes it, somebody who is simultaneously a progenitor of a couple of the characters and an actor in the drama, as well as somebody who knows everything that's going on. And such a character was a delight to create. I made him a cantankerous old politician in his dotage and in his anecdotage, who, since the original is dictated to our wonderful elephant-headed god Ganesh, Ganapati, I had this gentleman, this politician, dictate his memoir to a South Indian secretary called Ganapati, who comes to live with the narrator, dragging an enormous trunk behind him. So that was a pun on the word trunk, but also, of course, a secular use of Indian divinity. Now, this kind of irreverence is what animates the book. I think since we're running out of time, I will let people discover more by reading the book themselves.
True. So before we go ahead, I have just a couple of more questions for you. But I would also like to see what your followers are asking you. I'm sure they would have a lot of questions for you. What do you think the problem with the education system of India is? Which is a very valid question, actually.
Well, I think the big problem with our system is the emphasis on examinations and therefore rote learning. People are much less concerned about educating their minds than in doing well in the exams, which is not often the same thing. I must say that there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that as far as a good education is concerned, in the 21st century, there's no point having a well-filled mind, full of facts and dates and numbers that you mugged up, that you just regurgitate in your examination hall. You really need not a well-filled mind, but a well-formed mind. Why? Because whatever you don't remember, you can find out with 2 clicks of a mouse on Google in the real world, right? Whereas a well-formed mind is a mind that can deal with unfamiliar facts and information, that can understand issues even if you haven't studied them before or in the classroom or heard them in the teacher's notes, that knows how to get to the essence of a problem and apply a solution-oriented mind to it. That kind of mind will flourish in the world. The other kind, clearly, it will only be fit for clerical tasks, which is what the British were trying to equip us for. So we need to outgrow that, emphasize much more on creativity, original thinking, problem solving, and learning outcome should be the focus of education, not the process of learning.
When and how did you get immersed into English language to an extent that you're so-called, you are, we term you as the guru of English language?
And you're very kind, but it's really not that unusual for my generation. I went to a school, for example, in Mumbai, the Campion School, where not only was English commonly spoken, not just in the classroom, but in the playground, But there was even a rule that you couldn't use any Indian language, even in your private conversations. They wanted you to master your English. There were elocution competitions to get you to speak better. There were debating competitions to get you to learn to use the language to argue. I went to high school in Calcutta at St. Xavier's, where they added to the mix extempore speech competitions. We were locked up in a room for and given the topic 5 minutes before we were to go on stage and speak about it. So these kinds of things were common in my school days. I don't know if they've disappeared now, but because of that, I was very, very comfortably able to use the language throughout my school days, my college days. St. Stephen's, I was strongly into the debating circuit. I traveled around the country on third-class sleeper benches to participate in festivals all over the country. Acting, speaking, and so on. So I never thought of English as anything but an Indian language. In fact, when I came back to India after more than 3.5 decades living abroad, it was a bit of a discovery for me to realize that English had in many ways lost place from my childhood, and that Indian languages are very much more common. In fact, much of Indian nationalism was earlier articulated and written in the English language. The discovery of India by Nehru was written in English. Some of the great speeches in Parliament that he made and others made were made in English. So in many ways, I thought of English as a valid language for Indian politics. Rapidly discovered that I needed Malayalam if I was going to be viable in getting elected in Kerala, which I've been able to do 3 times. And then I needed to improve my Hindi if I had to be relevant on sound bites on television, or even in understanding some of the speeches made by our Prime Minister and others in Parliament. So English in many ways has conceded ground, has ceded place to other languages. Having said that, it seems to me that there's no question in my mind that as far as India is concerned, we should not discard the huge advantage we have on the global stage that command of English gives us. Even in the private sector, in any business today, you're dealing with customers, consumers, clients from around the world in almost any business. That's the way the world economy has become. They may not all be great English speakers, but English would be a very useful second language for everybody. You're dealing with a German or a Frenchman or a Russian, they're more likely to know English as a second language than to know Hindi. So don't give up the useful assets you have. Have your English, use it. And I think you'll absolutely be able to justify continuing with this colonial relic. The one bonus I think we've got.
Yes.
I've got
Tharoor, I know you are
a message right now saying you ought to publish a dictionary. Let me say that there is a thesaurus coming out once the lockdown is over. Penguin is bringing out something they call a Tharoorosaurus, which is a combination of my name with the Tyrannosaurus, the terrifying dinosaur, which is probably what I am to many people, and the thesaurus, which gives you all the words and their meanings and so on. But it's actually a little more lighthearted than that. I have explanations of words, their origins, their meanings, their usage, and some anecdotes about them. I hope people will enjoy that. That'll be my one foray, I think, into that world before I return to more serious writing.
Correct. Dr. Tharoor, I know you are also running short of time because I have had a chat with John as well with regards to that. But before we go, I have 2 questions, one of which fortunately has a lot of people have asked in the comments also, is your suggestions of books.
Well, I tweeted about 10 of them, so don't make me go through all of that again. I urge them just to go on my Twitter feed, scroll down to a couple of weeks ago when everybody was asking this question. And I recommended 10, one per tweet in the 10 successive tweets. See that, because that's really worth understanding why I recommended those books. Number 1 is the Mahabharata, but that doesn't surprise you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. One last question before we ask you to give a message to all our viewers. I would like to ask you one single question. What one quality that you or what do you think of Rahul Gandhi and what do you think of Prime Minister Narendra Modi?
Listen, they both have very different sets of qualities. Narendra Modi is dynamic, energetic. He actually is somebody who puts a lot of energy into his work. I believe that unfortunately he tends, it seems to me, to be better on speaking and rhetoric and in the articulation of ideas and messages than he is in delivering results on the ground. Now you may say, well, as an opposition MP, what do you expect me to say? But the truth is that that is my honest analysis, and I spent nearly 500 pages in Paradoxical Prime Minister explaining why. Secondly, Rahul Gandhi is somebody who's been given a very unfair reputation in the social media. He's been caricatured by people, I think, with, frankly, a political agenda behind it. I've seen the troll army at work unleashed by the ruling party, which spent an awful lot of money converting him into a papu, converting me into a Casanova, converting other people into images of themselves that they wouldn't recognize, or people who know them or their friends wouldn't recognize. So I don't think public should be misled by that. Obviously, the truth is that when people say, but how can people say such things about you? We know you, you're not like that. I say, yes, but I can't individually know hundreds of millions of people. Say, if a few hundred people who know me know that I'm not like that, but 100 million people believe what they read on social media, then obviously I may have a negative image. And that's also true of Rahul Gandhi. He's smart, young, energetic, intellectually curious, full of ideas and receptive to good new ideas. I think he's a terrific person, and many of us hope that he will rescind his withdrawal from the top echelons of the party, because the opposition needs his talents and his energy and drive.
Absolutely, absolutely. We take your word for it. And just before I let you go, a few words of inspiration to all our viewers and your fans.
Well, look, I mean, my one word of inspiration I give to any young people, and I'm assuming that Just Urbane has a principally young audience, is above all, don't let yourself down. I always brought my kids up saying never give up, but it's a little more complicated than that. You know what you're capable of. If you don't find out, delve into yourself, test yourself, challenge yourself, and discover before you're much older what you are capable of, what you can do and what you can't do. And then do the best that you can do. Remember that nobody can be a better you than you yourself. So if you can be the best you that you can possibly be, then you haven't let yourself down. The real competition, unlike our school examinations and college examinations, is not with the kid at the next table or the person in the next room or the next company. The real competition is with yourself. If you try as hard as you're capable of, if you actually put your own effort to doing the best that you can do, then it seems to me the rest will take care of itself and success will follow. What you can be reproached for, the only thing you can be reproached for is for not trying and for not living up to what you're capable of. But if you do and attempt to do what you know you can do, then you're being true to yourself, you will succeed and you will go far in this world. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your time. And it's always a pleasure talking to you and meeting you. And hope to see you soon, very soon after post the lockdown.
Thank you very much. All the best. And
thank you. Thank you.
And I hope that you'll post this talk for those who missed it. I see we have 735 people tuned in right now, so good night to all of them.
But there will be a lot of more unique followers, yes.
And I'm sure there'll be the rest when you post a recording of this.
Yes.
All the best, Abhishek. Take care.
Thank you, you too, sir. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.